I live in Bakersfield, California. I've been here since the mid 70s. And Bakersfield is the butt of many jokes. Johnny Carson used to say, I spent a week one night in Bakersfield, the armpit of California. But, it's Central California. Unfortunately, we're the home of Kevin McCarthy, who's been in the news lately. I'm surprised he actually stood up to Trump a little bit, but then, of course, he went down there and took a picture with him the next day. I say all this because over the past few years, I've been traveling a lot, going to races around the country. Not too many, but I, hit some about 10 states. My goal one time was to do an ultra in every state, but kind of slowed down quite a bit, especially with COVID and other kind of things. But my buddy Ann Trayson was doing it, and that's how I got to do many races with her. She was trying to do an ultra in every state and also the provinces. And so I was kind of doing that myself. But one thing I found out with my travels is, Bakersfield, people might talk shit about it, but man, compared to most places, I mean, granted, San Diego or Los Angeles, where I lived, both places there, the weather's ideal year round. It rains a little more than it does here, and I'm not a big fan of rain. In fact, Adam Kroll would always make a joke about being a Southern California weatherman was a pretty easy job. You just have to go. And today it's 71 in Torrance, 71 in Hawthorne. Wait, it's going to be 71 in Newport Beach. It's 71 everywhere. Bakersfield, though, like today, was almost in the 60s. Got up this morning. It was in the 50s. Maybe it's in the 40s. I read about, people training going, well, at least the temperature's 8 degrees. Throughout my travels, I met lots of Canadians, and they talk about how cold it is there. And I think, wow, you guys are I can't believe you have to train like that. Doing lots of treadmills. Me, I can go out almost every day, of course. I'm always cold. Good thing I live in Bakersfield. I mean, I'm in my house and it's warm, and I'm wearing this REI hoodie puffy jacket. But it's because I sleep in long pants, and I guess it's just kind of old age, being 57 going on 58. Reason I brought up weather is I saw this tweet by Hollie S. It says, can we please remove there is no bad weather for running, just bad gear phrase. There is dangerous weather to run outside in, and you shouldn't risk your life to get a run in. And that's definitely true. Just like if it's raining pretty hard here in Bakersfield, I don't mind running in the rain. In fact, it's usually not a cold rain here, but you're also going to, you can slip and fall yourself. Cars don't drive very well. In fact, my dad used to make fun of California drivers that whenever it rains, people just don't know how to drive at all. And here in Bakersfield, where we'll only get 5 or 6 inches of rain, you are taking your life into your hands being out and about with the rain. And speaking of like bad weather, I've often talked about how I watch a lot of these mountain climbing videos, and I can't say it properly, but the Anaconda hike, it's down in the South America. It's the tallest mountain in non-Himalayas. And I watch all these videos of people climbing, and I watched this one video of this guy who was climbing, and he was bragging about how he had no support, no Sherpas, no crew, wasn't hiring a company and all this stuff. But then throughout the video, he just talks about how often other people are pulling his ass out of the fire. Like his goggles get ripped off and someone gives him goggles. He runs out of food. He gets lost. Someone else, some soldiers out there with GPS actually find him and figure out how to get him back on course. And, same thing, right, not wearing proper gear, and getting some kind of frostbite, and then he ultimately ended up snowblind because he didn't have the proper gear, severely burned, and had to be medevaced out. So, it kind of goes hand in hand with the whole weather thing. It's kind of like, yeah, there's a way to do it, but don't be all talking that you're, Mr. Brave, and, because, you do need to rely on people. You just start going up there and trying to freeload, basically. So kind of going hand in hand with taking responsibility for yourself. That's like when I started climbing mountains back in 2009, 2010. I'd done some hiking when I was a kid, and then I've been running and doing that kind of thing. But I kind of got back into when I was doing a lot of walks. Back in 2009, I'd be out hiking on the bike path, and I kept running into some ladies I knew. And I eventually asked them, hey, what are you guys training for? I just wanted to train with them. I didn't really have any interest. And they go, oh, we're going to Whitney. And I go, oh, I've never done Whitney. Hey, can I train with you? And I'm sure. And then as the summer progressed, in fact, right now it's lottery season for Whitney. A lot of people, they ended up having like 8 permits. And of course, by the time the hike came, tons of people had dropped out and bailed out. And I went up there and did the hike. That first time I only got to like 13,000 feet and turned around, running out of time and tired and exhausted. One of the things I always took very seriously was if I'm going out in the mountains, I want to take care of myself. I don't want to have to rely on other people, and also, being a big guy, 250 pounds, I realize that I can't push myself too far because, if I get injured who's going to carry me down? Rangers are going to look at me and say, can you walk? Because how are they going to carry a 250-pound guy off the mountain? So I really wish people would take things more seriously. My first trip at Whitney, I turned around at 13,000 feet. It was 1 or 2 in the afternoon. I knew I wasn't going to make it to the top. Then a year later, I went there and I made it within a half a mile of the top. Again, it was late in the day, got tired, turned around. And then, of course, on the third time, I finally got there and made it. I always say, the mountain's always going to be there, and you can, push yourself, but don't take stupid mistakes. And I'm more like, I'm not so worried about my own self, but I don't want to put other people in harm's way to come out there and rescue me or do something drastic. And that kind of goes hand in hand with COVID. Jen Shelton, a great ultra runner. She's in the Born to Run book. I've met her at races, a real free spirit. She just recently had a baby, which is fun to watch her on Instagram, and her take on motherhood is just as great as her take on the ultra scene. And she just posted something about having a belief about COVID or vaccines is coming from a place of sheltered privilege. When you have dead friends and family, you don't have conspiracy theories, you have dead friends and family. Please vaccinate, even if it'll only save the life of complete strangers, 400,000 plus and counting. And that's kind of the same thing. I mean, I'm out driving around. I still do some door dashing, but it's pretty safe. But I limit my exposure to people, and I mask up when I'm supposed to, going into businesses. I mask up when I go to people's doors, and I just basically try and stay away from people as much as possible. I do train with a few people, but we don't go out traveling together for the most part. We just head out, meet at a trailhead, and hike together, but we're out there hiking, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't get passed along with outdoor exercise type of things. And actually here in Kern County, we're finally getting some sports back. Cross country's had some few meets, and it's looking like things are going to get a little back to normal. In fact, they just released in California that more vaccines are going to be available. And I guess I do get moved up into the line. I'm not over 65, but with my congestive heart failure, I'm supposed to get some vaccination in the near future. I've been feeling great ever since I got hospitalized back on April 25th on this medication, and my workout's getting better, and I've been training a lot better. So, do it for others and not just for yourself. Speaking of climate and whatnot, it's very interesting. Here in California, we've got great weather, so indoor track isn't really a thing. Of course, back east and a lot of other parts of the world, it's snowy and cold. In fact, I was just watching this really cool cross-country cyclocross race where they were riding in the snow and the mud. And the World Championships was just recently where they were on the ocean. It was pretty cold and miserable. And I remember, riding along in the sand and riding into the surf. Pretty exciting stuff. But, it's been pretty much really great indoor track and field's been going on. We had that amazing meet where they almost broke the 3,000 record for the men. The 1,500 women record got broken. Lots of fast distance times have been coming in a storm. Arkansas has been having quite a bit of meets. They've been putting on those professional meets. And then today, the big news out of Arkansas in college track and field was that the Oregon, they just set the DMR record, the NCAA, and I think it was like the world best mark. It's not official because they don't count world best marks in that event. But Cooper Teare ran 3:50.39, and Cole Hocker, his teammate, ran 3:50.55, and Charlie Hunter 3:53.49, all in one team. And they were both under the old collegiate record of 3:52.01. This makes them the number 1, 2, and 6 fastest times of all time in NCAA history. And in fact, Hawker's time is the fastest indoor mile by a teenager, which is pretty amazing. That the fastest time was 3:52 back in 2012. It says only a handful of teens, including Kipchoge, Noah Nenge, and Samuel Tafar, have run that fast for an outdoor mile. So he's in really good company. So pretty interesting. They listed the top 8 all-time times, and 4 of the guys are from University of Oregon. Edward Cheserek is number 3 all time. Eamon Colliquelin, wow, he's on that. Bernard Lagat, Johnny Garorick, Cooper Teare, and Cole Hocker. Pretty impressive list of indoor all-time best. Oregon, obviously has great, running condition, and Bakersfield's best all-time runner ever, Blake Haney, who went to Stockdale High, won some state championships. He went to Oregon, and it was really great to see that when he was running for Oregon, he broke 4 minutes for the mile as well. He's now in Flagstaff running for Under Armour. I keep expecting to see him. I remember last year he ran one indoor meet, didn't do too well in his professional debut, but I know he's been kind of battling some injury issues, so be nice to definitely see him on some of these races, or hopefully later this year. In fact, I remember seeing there was an article in our local paper that Blake Haney, I never knew this, but he has Canadian citizenship as well as United States citizenship. So he is supposed to be trying to run for Canada in the world type of stuff. He has represented America when he was a junior, and he went to like Russia and ran the 1500. So he's supposed to be trying to run for the Canadian team. This weekend, there's also a great meet. Again, unfortunately, Donovan Brazier, world champion 800, and Bryce Hoppel, who was right behind him and just threw down an amazingly fast 800 just a week ago. They're again going to be going in the meet, but they're not going to be going against each other, which is unfortunate. They're going to run. Bryce is going to run 1,000. Which, rightly so, he wants to run a good 1,000, and I guess, he's been talking about wanting to run 1,000 for a while, but it sucks when we have these really great athletes kind of avoiding one another. Donovan Brazier, when Bryce ran that fast 800 a while back, was supposed to run the 600, but he was in contact with someone that had COVID, so he was not allowed to run. Interesting here, it says that he ended up being quarantined in an Arkansas motel room for 5 days. No access to weight room or treadmill, and I guess he's a big treadmill type of runner. Yikes, it just sounds just terrible. And also coming up this weekend, I have to definitely try and find it on YouTube, the Kenyan National Cross Country Championships, which are always one of the best races of the year. Last year, Kandie upset Geoffrey Kamworor. Kamworor then missed summer fall with injury as Kandie broke his half marathon world record. So it's definitely going to be a cool, exciting event to watch. Hopefully you'll find them on YouTube and talk about them later on. I wanted to end this up. I was listening to Let's Run, great podcast, and they were talking to the young man who ran that super fast mile the other day, and he was talking about how he really didn't start really taking track seriously until this past year. He's been a rock climber for quite some time, which builds incredible strength, and I think that really has helped him a lot. And it was interesting in the race, the gun went off and there was a pack of runners, and it seemed like somebody fell off with a half mile in, and you thought, oh, maybe it's just a high school kid, because they didn't really talk very much about him before the race. And then all of a sudden you realize, like, holy cow, he's still in the race. And so I highly recommend trying to check out that article about him and his epic race, where he now has the record for the fastest high school miler ever all time. And he is also going to be going to, like, where else? He's going to be going to Northern Arizona Flagstaff and competing there. Of course, they've got great teams. He was saying that he hopes to continue his rock climbing, which I find kind of entertaining, because I would think that his coaches would not be wanting him doing that kind of crazy, risky stuff. Because I'm sure coaches are much like me. They always say, they want you to stay healthy, be boring, not epic.